Hi again. Well, a little bit different today. You might notice I'm in the kitchen. I get a lot of comments on my Instagram whenever I cook food, people asking for recipes. Today I'm going to show you an example, hopefully, of a good pizza that would end up on my Instagram. Firstly, I'm going to start with the base. Now, a lot of people I think are afraid to cook pizza at home because they're worried it takes too long, but I want to show you today how you can cook a pizza from scratch in the same time it will take you to order it from the shops. Alright, so we've got everything we need here. Flour. There is a little bit of sugar in this. I do make this myself because I like to know how much sugar is in the base. And there is a little bit of salt, but I'll show you the controlled portion of that. To start, to get the yeast going, there's no heat in the water, but you do want that water to be warm so that it helps activate the yeast. About that much water. 2 teaspoons, I know that's not a traditional teaspoon, but and your sugar, that much, maybe a bit over half a teaspoon. Give that a stir, and then you just set that aside. While you're making the dough, it's probably a good idea to put the pizza stones in the oven, so I do use pizza stones. So I put that up to about 250. Pour in flour, and we'll just wait for that to get frothy now. We literally just have to wait 2 or 3 minutes. Pretty much just put some flour onto the surface, roll it into the, just let it naturally sort of roll up, and then sort of start kneading that. And then just add a little bit more flour in there as you knead it. Still feels nice and soft, but it's starting to get a little bit of push back in it when you're kneading it. It's one of those things, once you've done it a few times, you'll sort of know exactly where you need it to be. So I'm pretty comfortable with that now. Put a bit of flour in the bottom of a big bowl like this. Drop it in. You want that to be airtight, just like rise. So you don't want it to be too hot, but you definitely don't want it to be too cold because the yeast actually needs a little bit of warmth to rise that dough. So I usually just leave it over here. So that's been about an hour. Usually in the hour that I'm doing this, I'm preparing other ingredients or helping my wife with the kids, usually bath time or something like that when we're having pizza. So just notice that it sort of sticks to the bowl. The best thing is to use one of these silicone spatulas. Pops out. It's sort of almost like a similar texture as it was when you first started doing it. So you put it back on the flour surface. I'm going to make 2. Twist that into 2, start spreading it out like this. This is probably the best way if you want to get that nice thick crust on the edges. And I'm going to show you a little trick. So with the pizza stone, if you want to use a pizza stone, you have to pretty much make that pizza and then put it onto the stone. But you try and pick that up with all the ingredients on, it's going to fall off. So what I do is I actually make the pizza on foil, and I use the foil to transfer the pizza onto the pizza stone. In roughly an hour, you've got 2 pizza bases. Now, the good thing about these is you know exactly what went into them, and it can be a little bit of fun too. Sometimes I like to do this with my daughter, she really enjoys cooking with me. This is what happens when you have kids. Foil gets unrolled and then rolled back up into the packet, but I'll use it anyway. Alright, a little bit of flour onto the base. Those. Once you've done this, you'll realise how much of a hack this is to make it easy. You can literally throw anything. You can do vegan, vegetarian, meat lovers. I'm lactose intolerant, so I use dairy cheese, but it's lactose free. I also use just like a basic passata, like tomato puree as the base. Spreading it around. You'll know how much you need to use because you want to sort of cover the base, but you don't want it to be too wet. So once you've done the tomato, just prep that, just put a little bit of cracked pepper on there, pinch of salt, dairy cheese, but lactose free for me. If it's you and you eat cheese, I recommend that you use mozzarella or a proper pizza cheese. get that nice stringy texture, cooks a lot better in the oven, looks better on your Instagram, you know, tastes better. For someone who doesn't eat dairy, I think that's enough cheese. By now you're probably starting to realise that pizza doesn't really have a formula. I like to just put some olives on. Once again, you don't have to cut them or prep them, and just tear them apart. These are obviously pitted olives, Kalamata. And I usually do anchovies as well, but my wife absolutely hates anchovies, so I've gotten used to making pizza without it. That is literally it. That's how you make pizza. Well and truly preheated to 250. Stones have been in there now since we started making the dough, so they should be hot enough. Make sure you are careful with how hot these are. They're very hot. And then this is where the foil pack comes into play. Put it on there, foil helps it still cook. Helps your pizza stay together while you're putting it on the stone. And then this part of the process as well is very much just a feel thing. Like that stone's hot enough, the oven's hot enough. You just have to keep checking on that and see. Make sure that the dough doesn't burn, make sure the cheese doesn't burn, but you just want to make sure that you get that really nice char around on the dough. Make sure the cheese is melted nicely. Literally, by the time that I've finished packing up these ingredients, I can almost promise you those pizzas will be well and truly cooked. Looking good. Sometimes I just spin them around. We don't have the luxury of a pizza oven. Slide that off. So the crust's probably a little bit blonder than I would have liked, but the cheese has cooked perfectly. I think like a bit of fresh basil. You can try and make this look really nice if you want, or you can just chuck it on there. It's more just for the flavour, not the look. There's your finished slice of pizza. If you're going to serve it straight out of the oven, and you've got your #1 taste testers here, you can just cool it down a little bit. It's not the cheese or anything, it's just the tomato. I find the tomato holds the heat a lot because that sauce just boils. Dang it. Dang it. As I said, this is not a Jenny Craig inspired dish, this is just pizza. And if you are going to cook pizza, I just want to inspire at least one person to give it a crack yourself. Control how much salt and sugar goes into it. Make sure that if you are going to eat pizza, it doesn't have to be the healthiest pizza in the world, but you know exactly what's in it. It's not just a dish that's inspired by health, it's inspired by toddlers, and it's a dish for mummy and daddy as well. Thanks for watching.